Honorable Rhoda Moy Crawford, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, Dr. Kassan Troop, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, Mrs. Terry Ann Thomas Gale, Chief Education Officer, Dr. Adrian Stokes, Chairman of the Education Transformation Oversight Committee, Dr. Venice Morrison-Leon, Project Lead for the Transformation in Education Project, heads of agencies from all the agencies in the Ministry of Education, regional directors, individuals joining us online, members of the media, a very pleasant morning to you all. A very pleasant morning. Thank you. It is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome you to the Education Transformation Oversight Committee's press conference for Year 4, Quarter 1 for the Trend Performance Report. I extend a warm welcome to members of the media, representatives of ETOC that are also with us this morning, other officials from the Ministry of Education, our education stakeholders, development partners, and members of the academic community. Thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. Today's press conference forms part of the Ministry's commitment to transparency, accountability, and keeping information open and accessible to all stakeholders. We want to let you know about the progress being made under the Transforming Education for National Development Program. As at the end of Year 4, Quarter 1, overall implementation stands at 43%, representing a 4 percentage point increase over the previous reporting period. Round of applause for that. Our program this morning will begin with an overview from Dr. Adrian Stokes, followed by a presentation from Dr. Vernice Morrison-Leon, our project lead. And following those presentations, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media will have an opportunity to ask questions before we conclude proceedings. And we're going straight into it. And we're going to begin our program by inviting to the lectern Dr. Adrian Stokes, Chairman of ETOC. Dr. Stokes will provide for us an overview of Year 4, Quarter 1 Trend Performance Report. Please welcome Dr. Stokes.
Morning, everyone. I'm going to proceed on the protocols established by our host and see how we can be very efficient with moving us along. So, good morning. It's really good to be here to have another press conference where we talk about the progress being made on improving education in Jamaica. As usual, I want to start by thanking the members of ETOC for their continued commitment to this transformation journey. As I oftentimes say, the work isn't glamorous. It requires significant commitment to a project that is painstaking and even arduous at times. Nevertheless, it is a necessary journey that we must go on if we're going to move our country forward. Something I also said at our last meeting, and I want to reiterate here. Now, everyone knows, we all recognize that there is no future for our country, certainly no bright future for our country without a proper functioning education system. And when I speak of a proper functioning education system, we're talking about an education system that works for all, not just pockets of excellence as we have today, but a system that is globally competitive. A system that can give Jamaicans a fighting chance on a global level. So it's very, very important work that we're doing here. And this is the reason our resolve at ETOC to implement the recommendations remains unshaken. Now, while we will implement the recommendations, and it's not just implementing the recommendations, you have to do so in an agile manner. Our goal is to prevent what I would call implementation fatigue from creeping into the work that's been done. One of the risks cited by the Patterson report is a failure to follow through on previous reports. Now, we have made a commitment that this time things will be different. And one of the institutional arrangements put in place to prevent this implementation fatigue is ETOC. And that's why we are so steadfast. We are so committed to working with the ministry to achieve full implementation of the recommendations. Now, of course, implementation of the recommendations is what I would say a necessary condition to improve the structural foundation of our education system. But it is not the only objective here. At the end of the day, results must improve, which is one of the reasons clear KPIs were established at the start of the project to ensure we can successfully drive the train while we are laying the tracks. And importantly, we can measure as we go along. So what I want to do now is to talk about the progress made up to this reporting period. For this period, we are reporting an overall 43% progress rate on the implementation of the recommendations. This is an increase from the 37% progress reported at our last quarterly briefing. And this represents a 600 basis points increase for the reporting period. Now, that's good progress. The positive movement for the period was driven mainly by three pillars: governance, teaching and learning, and the TVET pillars. Importantly, all initiatives are on track for the period under review. Overall, 207 initiatives are underway in the project. The goal is to be halfway through the project by the end of the current fiscal year, that is by March 2027. So the milestone established for that period, or up to March 2027, is a 53% achievement rate. Then we will build up gradually to 65% by the end of the next fiscal year, which is by 27-28, with full implementation scheduled to be achieved by fiscal year end 2031. As indicated earlier, the goal is to see the project through to completion. That's very, very important. We shouldn't allow what I would call naysayers or negativity to sap the implementation energy we are seeing. I want to reiterate that implementation will be done in an agile way. And agile meaning you have to implement and self-correct and to modify based on new information, right? That's what sensible people do. So, for example, rapid technological change will have a profound impact on teaching and learning going forward. That's clear. We have to appreciate that artificial intelligence will eventually shape teaching and learning, not just in Jamaica, but globally. Therefore, the initiatives we are implementing must accommodate this eventuality. Already you are seeing, for example, I heard a news item out from CXC where they are modifying how they assess students. And this is common sense, right? You have to adjust based on what's happening around you. So some key highlights for the period. Now, there are a number of initiatives to be spoken about or highlighted for the current period. The one I want to talk about and will unpack a little bit going forward in this presentation is around governance, something that I have spoken about before in previous fora like these. So governance is very important. Improving governance throughout the education system is a big focus of ETOC. Specifically, there is heightened tension around improving school boards. And we spoke about this, I think, at our last press conference. In fact, we have been talking about this for about 2 or 3 press conferences, where the governance and particularly school boards need to be improved. We're talking about the cadre of board members in terms of competencies and the overall performance of boards. In addition to governance, a key highlight for the period is the work being done to recover schools badly damaged by Hurricane Melissa. Significant work is being done here, and I know the ministry in their presentation will go into some depth about what's going on there. Of note, just to jump to an important highlight for the period, the consultation work around the JETC bill is now finalized. The next step is to retable the bill in Parliament, and we hope that the period, or I should say the extended consultation that took place, will afford the bill smooth passage through the Houses of Parliament. So we look forward to that. All right. So as I indicated, ETOC has a big focus on improving governance within the school system. A key component of this is to improve the composition and performance of school boards. 2 initiatives are currently being pursued in relation to this objective. One is to recruit board members who have specific competencies in line with the needs of the particular school or schools. And the second is to commence the payment of board fees to independent directors. We have made progress with the first initiative, and the ministry indicated that 90% of the new directors for boards chosen over the last 24 months meet the specific goals or the strategic goals of the schools where these directors will serve. So that's a very good thing. In terms of paying fees to directors, fees are based on, or the fees that will be paid will be based on the government-established standards for public boards. The goal is to have a pilot that includes schools that fall under the National School Learning and Intervention Plan, or what they call the NSLIP schools. The pilot will last for, or will run for 1 academic year, starting September of this current year. Of course, there will be a clear performance management system put in place to ensure board meetings are being held. That's very important. Minutes are being taken and preserved to give us a record to assess the quality of the meetings. And ultimately, a board success will be measured by the overall performance of the school. So these are some of the things that we're doing as it relates to improving governance within the system. Let me jump quickly now to talk about two important issues before I close. One is the work underway to recover schools damaged by the hurricane. And recall that many of our schools were damaged, and we spoke about this at our last press conference. The ministry prioritized schools that were severely damaged. They call these priority one schools, schools like Manning's High, for example. So there are a number of these schools that were significantly damaged, and a lot of attention is being given to these schools to recover them. And the hope is that we will see many of these schools coming back online for September, right? That's very important. But nonetheless, the work will go on for some time because there are many, many schools that are involved. A lot of work to be done. Clearly, there are constraints as it relates to the capacity of contractors. A lot of rebuild work will go on in the country as we recover from Melissa. So resources will have to be shared. The important thing is to ensure that the schools are rebuilt sustainably. They take into consideration new technology, and importantly, that these newly erected structures can withstand future crises like what we experienced with Melissa. So that's very, very important, right? To build back better, right? So we look forward to the work being done there, and clearly we want the ministry to talk about the rebuild effort in previous or in future sessions going forward. So we talked about the rebuild. What I want to do now is to talk about the PEP results, right? This is something ETOC watches quite closely because it is one of those KPIs that should benefit from all the work being done to transform education. Now, there were some changes made to the exam this year, I was told, to account for the disruption caused by the hurricane. Notwithstanding the changes, we can track the performance over time of students in mathematics and English to gauge if we are seeing a lift in performance. The first thing that I am mindful of, and we should congratulate all involved, is the percentage of students achieving proficiency in both subjects, that is mathematics and English language, improved period on period, year over year. This is a good thing, and we should laud all the persons involved, the students, teachers, parents, all the stakeholders who contributed to the improvement that we are seeing period over period. Secondly, when you track the PEP cohort back to grade 4, and this is very important, to assess mastery in both numeracy and literacy, there's an improvement. Some may even say a marked improvement. And again, this is very commendable, right? So when you look at these kids in grade 4 and you look at their progress up to PEP and look at the mastery, the number of kids achieving mastery, we're seeing a sizable or notable increase. And that's a good thing. And we should congratulate, again, the schools, the students, parents, all the stakeholders for this important results. Now, while the overall improvement in performance is commendable, the results continue to highlight an important problem in our education system, something that's very close to my heart, right? There's a sizable performance gap between our boys and girls. the girls continue to outperform the boys in statistically significant ways. It's not even close. The Patterson report highlights this issue, and indeed other entities that have taken a deep dive looking into the Jamaican education system, like the UNICEF report, the 2022 report, point out that Jamaica is one of the few places globally where girls outperform boys in mathematics, for example. The Patterson report argued that the root cause was not favoritism. So it's not like girls are being given some advantage knowingly. Rather, what the report highlights is that our boys, through social circumstances or their abusive upbringing, cultural norms, but generally, let's say, psychosocial issues that are putting our boys at a disadvantage. So, from the diagnosis, we clearly see that we have a big problem with our boys, right? We can't just accept it as a fait accompli and something that we just have to live with. So the fair characterization is that the report, the Patterson report that is, identified and analyzed the gender gap in some depth. So if you go back to the Patterson report, and I do so frequently, just to review the work and just to get a better sense of the thought process and so on. So when you go back to the report, you read the report, you recognize that the committee members saw this as a big issue, right? And, you know, they spoke about it in some depth, but we haven't got recommendations that are, let's say, gender specific in the report, right? So if you look, the recommendations spread across the 7 pillars, but they are not specific as it relates to how do we close the gender divide. So the bottom line is we have more work to do to find solutions that can close the gender performance gap. And I know work, and I was talking to PS and team about this, and the truth is, I believe they have research, they have information, or at least they have ideas about what to do. Love to learn a lot more about these ideas and what we can do to close this gender gap in performance. What is clear is that we have to change the approach we use to educate our boys. That's very important. And as I said, I'm not sure anyone has a full slate of answers on how to address this problem. I suspect we will have to test different, let's say, learning modalities to find the appropriate ones for our boys. This is something ETOC will work on closely with the ministry and all relevant stakeholders to better understand and to fix the issue. We must improve the performance of our boys. We have to close the performance gap. So this represents the report from ETOC for this reporting period. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stokes. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just heard from the chairman of the Education Transformation Oversight Committee. As he said, not glamorous work, but we're making steady strides towards our goal, and I think we deserve another round of applause for that. Implementation at 43%, and I hear we're halfway essentially through the implementation of the project. And this is reflecting a continued advancement across all 7 pillars of trend. We will now hear more about the initiatives contributing to this progress, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to invite Dr. Venice Morrison-Leon, Project Lead and Transformation Officer for the Trend Program. Please make her welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Please allow me to stand on the protocols that were already established. This report reflects more than activities completed. It demonstrates a transformation in motion through the Trend program, and we are strengthening systems, empowering educators, modernizing our schools, and improving opportunities for learners as we build a world-class education system for Jamaica. While we are transitioning through our slides, as was shared earlier by our chair, we are very systematic in how we are doing our project. And transformation is measured by results. We have 10 success indicators and 7 strategic pillars, providing the roadmap for delivering a high-performing, accountable, and future-ready education system. So we are very systematic in our approach. We have reached 43% implementation, demonstrating measurable progress across the transformation agenda. The focus is now on disciplined execution, accelerating delivery, and sustaining results across all 7 pillars. As was shared earlier, we have increased 4% points over the last reporting period. To provide context for our report today, here is a snapshot of the 7 pillars and their current rates of implementation. Pillar 1, we're at 55%, that's governance and accountability. Pillar 2, early childhood sector, we are at 47%. Pillar 3, teaching, curriculum, and teacher training, we're at 26%. Tertiary sector, we're at 67%. TVET, 50%. Technology and infrastructure, 38%. And finance, 21%. We're going to skip this slide because it was expounded by our chair. At the end of this fiscal year, we definitely know that we want to be halfway through our implementation by attaining 53%. I will be sharing with you some strategic highlights for this quarter. The fulsome report is available on our Trend website. For this quarter, we are happy to report that we have achieved 13 recommendations. Pillar 1 and 2 reported 2 recommendations, 1 recommendation each, Pillar 3, 4 recommendations. Pillar 4, 5 recommendations. And pillars 6 and 7, 1 each. Highlights for Pillar 1. We continue to trend by strengthening school board governance. This quarter, we received 63 new applications, bringing the total to 177. We have also established a comprehensive school board framework and engaged our tertiary institutions to build stronger boards, stronger schools, and a more prosperous Jamaica ultimately. So the work with our schools and governance systems are going very well. For Gov 3.3, conduct structural review of NCE Recruitment has commenced to strengthen the institutional capacity and to support its expanded legislative mandate. 7 positions have been filled and recruitment is currently underway. Yes, that needs for us to applaud NCE now. Yes, man, they are building their capacity to serve us better. Gov 6, given the serious concerns regarding cultural issues in the ministry, it is recommended that a full review is to be done, and we are happy to report this morning that the Mona School of Business strategic review is complete, providing a strategic blueprint to strengthen the ministry's governance and operating model. The findings will now advance for cabinet decision, and this is a big one for the ministry. Gov 10.2, increase staffing in internal audit. We are strengthening the ministry's assurance and accountability framework through expanded internal audit capacity. These investments enhance governance, reinforce financial oversight, and improve organizational performance across the education system. 33 audit positions are now occupied, and the recruitment activities are ongoing. Pillar 2, early childhood sector. Rationalize training and qualification for early childhood practitioners. Competent and qualified practitioners to serve the sectors. For this activity, the training plan was developed and approved, and we want to celebrate this success as well. Pillar 3.4, increase services provision for children 0 to 2. The Brain Builder Center program continues to strengthen Jamaica's early childhood infrastructure. This quarter, 23 centers have been completed, achieving 76.7% of the annual target, with 8 additional centers approved to expand access to quality early learning. And we have also received 11 additional Brain Builder Centers applications, and they are being processed. ECD 4, increase the quality of teaching and learning through the provision of trained teachers. Through the Hope Temporary Trained Teachers Program, we have retained 312 teachers, strengthening the education workforce and expanding the system capacity to deliver quality instruction at the early childhood level. ECD 4.3, we continue with the quality of our teachers within the sector. Capacity building remains our central theme in our transformation agenda. During this quarter, over 3,300 early childhood practitioners were trained in priority competence areas aligned to ECC standards, strengthening the quality across the sector. ECD 6.2, developing a structured parent support program this quarter. We strengthened family support services by establishing 2 parent places and delivering 167 parenting workshops, empowering families and building stronger communities across Jamaica. This brings our total parent places to 110. Pillar 3, and Pillar 3, just so you know, is our biggest pillar. It represents 51% of the recommendations in the JETC report. All right? TG1 and 5.2, we continue to trend by investing in our teachers and transforming classroom practice. This quarter, we engaged over 4,000 educators through professional development, coaching, and ICT and AI-enabled training, strengthening teaching in over 225 schools, impacting over 800 students, and delivered 74 workshops and planning sessions. Reviewing of the National Standards Curriculum, we are modernizing Jamaica's curriculum by reviewing the primary programs, grades 1 to 6, and enhancing grades 7 to 9 in STEAM, ICT, and character education. OSF 7.2 provides students with a variety of opportunities to practice and improve their academics. And we're happy to report this quarter that IXL is strengthening literacy and numeracy in our 56 NSLIP schools, benefiting over 1,600 grade 7 students. The IXL adoption is progressing well, and 50 of the 56 schools are fully onboarded, and the students recording over 1,400 learning hours. Our top schools, yes. Our top school this quarter was St. Mary's College. And from that same school, our top student using the tool was Nathaniel Perkins, and our outstanding teacher, Miss Christine Howell, and administrator, Mr. Oral Gale. We congratulate St. Mary's College. And we look forward to the full support from all our schools. This quarter, more than 20,000 students benefited from target literacy and numeracy interventions, while 180 of our teachers were trained to deliver high-quality support where it matters the most. We continue to trend by strengthening school-to-work pathways, expanding the work experience program in 123 secondary schools, and delivering 3 labor market needs and intelligence webinars that equipped over 210 educators to better prepare students for the world of work. OSF 9.2, develop a comprehensive and sustained public education program on childhood disability. And this quarter, we strengthen inclusive education through nationwide sensitization, equipping over 1,400 educators, students, parents, and partners to better support learners with exceptionalities. We move quickly to Pillar 4. Re-examine pre-service to increase hours spent in practical training. This quarter, we recorded a 10% increase to achieve 100% completion of the pre-service framework, marking a significant milestone in strengthening teacher preparation and classroom readiness. And that's a big deal. When we have great teachers, our students typically do better. TT2 2.1, increase and standardize across all teacher training program hours spent in practicum, and we achieved 100% completion of the proposed 3+1 teacher training model, a 50% increase over the previous quarter, marking a major step towards strengthening practical teacher preparation in Jamaica. 3.61 under Pillar 4, establish a consortium of private and public higher education institutions This quarter, the Cabinet submission was drafted for consultation. So further reports will be given as we make progress with that. TT 3.82, review and standardize the curriculum for teacher training. Curriculum standardization is progressing, with the gap analysis completed and specialist procurement now underway. Develop standards for teacher educators, TT9. Teacher preparation standards are 90% complete, reflecting a 40% increase over the last quarter. JETC should be fully established as the Higher Education Authority. The Cabinet submission is drafted for consultation. Funding to the sector allocated in a more transparent way. This quarter, we completed the draft funding model for the tertiary sector and advanced it for approval, marking a significant step toward a more equitable and sustainable education financial system at the tertiary level. Examine the role and functioning of the National Education Trust and its alignment to secure funds for the tertiary sector. This quarter, we advanced the proposals to strengthen tertiary education financing through the National Education Trust, with submission being finalized for approval. TER 10, a functioning tertiary education management information system. In our last press conference, we reported that the TMIS was completed, and in this quarter, we are reporting that we have onboarded over 30 higher education institutions onto EMIS, strengthening data-driven planning and decision-making across our tertiary sector. All right. TER 15, steps should be taken to improve the provisions of critical information to prospective students on the labor market. This quarter, we advanced JETC Career Information Hub, completing the initial review and project framework, with the initiative now 50% complete. Pillar 5. We continue to trend by strengthening technical and vocational education through industry standard facilities that produced workforce-ready graduates. And this is something that we can celebrate in this project. TVET 2.1, this quarter, we celebrated excellence in TVET by recognizing Gavin the Rizio of Vauxhall High School as the top TVET teacher, alongside 12 other awardees, while advancing preparations for the 7th National TVET Awards. Can we put our hands together for our colleagues? Pillar 6. Post-Hurricane Melissa, we have already invested approximately $3.86 billion to build back stronger, ensuring our schools are built to be safer, more resilient, and better prepared to support teaching and learning for years to come. And as was shared by our chair earlier, we are pleased to report that 32 of our schools' infrastructure projects have been completed and 214 are underway. Good stuff from NET. We continue to trend Pillar 6, IT 13, by expanding digital connectivity, with Wi-Fi now available in 82% of our public schools and places of safety, and broadband access reaching 74%, creating more connected and technology-enabled learning environments. And our final pillar, 7, Resources are being allocated effectively. 6.1 billion overall in operational disbursement. And this 6.1 investment is more than a financial commitment. It is an investment in Jamaica's future. As we continue with our project, we are building stronger schools, empowering our educators, and creating greater opportunities for our learners. Operational grants have increased by an average of 19.3%, giving schools greater financial capacity to improve learning environments and support students' success. So, colleagues, Trend is not simply about changing schools. It's about transforming Jamaica's future through education. We continue to deliver our results through our Trend program. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Morrison-Leon, for that very comprehensive report. Indeed, education in Jamaica is certainly trending upward. With our overall implementation, I have to keep saying it, at 43%, 3.27027 billion allocated for repairs and reconstruction, 6.1 billion in operational disbursements, Wi-Fi access now in 82% of our schools and places of safety, continued literacy and numeracy interventions reaching thousands of our students, ongoing investment in teacher development and inclusive education. Ladies and gentlemen, these achievements certainly demonstrate that education transformation is delivering measurable results. Please give the team another round of applause. We will now open the floor for questions. We're going to be starting with our media houses this morning. I'm going to invite you to state your name, the media house that you're from, and then you can pose your question, which will be answered by the person best suited to do so. Don't be shy. Please go right ahead.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Yes. May we have another one at this space as well, please?
Morning, everyone. Mahiri Stewart, Nationwide News here. First question goes to Dr. Stokes. I know the ministry recently announced that a committee was being formed to examine how boys are educated in schools. Is that something you believe could see an improvement in terms of the performance going forward?
We need to do a lot more than that. That's the simple answer to that question. That's just, let's say a first step, hopefully, to something meaningful. We need real initiatives. We need to pilot different ideas. As I said, I am not certain that anyone has a full slate of answers, right? It's a little bit tricky because we are in, let's say, a peculiar situation because globally, boys outperform girls in many countries, right? And my own theory, and I suspect, and persons have said it, the psychosocial issues are real, right? The many distractions, let's call them that our boys have in the various communities are playing a significant role, deleterious role. The question is, how do we respond, or how do we modify or evolve the education system to accommodate these psychosocial issues that are playing out in the society? So that's what we need to see. And as I said, I don't want to belittle a committee or anything like that. It could be an important first step. But, we need to get real serious around the issue, build, clear objectives, milestones, what are we trying to achieve, What are we going to pilot? I'm a big fan of piloting stuff, learning by doing. So, as I said, so hopefully it's a step in the right direction. But it's not, I'm not expecting just from that committee, whatever they're going to do, to see, significant change, right? A lot more needs to happen. But I should say, right, and perhaps I do some of your work, right, to invite the PS, because I think there is knowledge within the Ministry of Education about this issue, about this matter. And I am learning more about it as I go along. And I would love to hear from PS, who I know perhaps have some ideas based on just experience about this gender matter, and presumably what are some of the things, from an experienced educator like yourself, things that we could put forward to at least test them, to see if we can move the needle in the right direction.
Good morning, everyone. Special morning to members of the media. So the chair is right. We have begun to reflect as educators on what we now need to do to support our boys better. Earlier, the conversation was about moving the mastery for literacy, and we have shown Jamaica that we can do that, and we will continue to do that. And our chairman has asked us to go deeper now to look into what is happening with our boys, because when we looked at the data, we saw that the boys are trailing the girls. But we have been unpacking some of the research, and Minister has indicated that she wants to put a formal committee together so we can, examine that together and put together a full slate of activities that we will roll out. So particularly, we have been talking about how we socialize our boys. So there is a socialization factor that is influencing what happens in the classroom. We talk about the biological differences between boys and girls. Boys learn differently. Boys have something called rest state, and so they get distracted. They will go to sleep if they are not moving. Boys like competition. Girls will sit stably and do what they need to do. Boys have to compete, get excited. And so that means our teachers have to be retooled. They have to be trained. We are all trained in that as teachers. But when we get into the classroom, it's a little different. And so we have to get the resources for that. We need the bingos, we need the dominoes, we need the movements. And sometimes as female teachers, we misinterpret the movement. We see it as disruption. The teacher who's next door also sees that as disruption when we are trying to get our students excited about learning. So those are some of the things we have begun to unpack in our conversation as it relates to how we are dealing with our boys. We're looking at how we regroup. And we have schools. We have Yuatan Primary that is doing it. We have Mona High School that is doing it. And the school that has done it the best over a long time is St. Catherine High School, where we group our boys differently for learning. And when I was principal, I experimented with it at the Denby High School. So we know when boys are together, they compete well and they perform differently. We have to look also at how we design our classrooms. Boys are tactile, they love to touch. Boys don't like red and yellow, and we love red and yellow. Boys they see colors differently. They have the warmer colors, the gray, the blue, the shades in between. And our classrooms don't look like that. That's part of how we are holding back the boys. So there's a whole raft of measures that we have to look at as it relates to how we're going to support our boys. We know that when boys are supported, they will do well. Yeah. The biological theory tells us also that boys will trail girls in the earlier years. Girls develop faster in the earlier years, but they will catch up in the later years. So by the time they hit teenager, grade 8, 16, 17, 18, they'll catch up the girls as well. So that's part of the differences we are treating with our boys. So we are familiar with the theories. We have been taught, and we are going back now into the workshop to see how we can improve our strategies to support our boys as we have now. I think comfortably been on a trajectory chair with a tactical approach to support numeracy literacy generally. Now we have to dig deeper for our boys. And I think our State Minister wants to add as a former teacher herself.
Yes. So just good morning, everyone. just to add a little bit of icing to the cake. You know, I am a little bit more hopeful than Dr. Stokes that putting this committee together will yield results, because even before I was appointed to the ministry, and there were discussions in the public domain that the ministry would establish the ETOC to look at recommendations and to move things forward. And in the able chair and, of course, our solid team at the ministry and our regional offices, our principals and teachers, we would have seen that despite those who were negative or thought that putting a committee of this nature would not be useful, because of the serious work that is injected and the follow-ups and the measures put in place to ensure that we move in the right direction, every single quarter that we have given a report, even following the passage of Hurricane Melissa, we have seen improvement. So I know that this committee that will be put in place to examine what we can do differently to benefit our boys, I know it will be a solid committee. I have been in meetings with our senior minister, Dr. the Honorable Dana Morris Dixon, and with our parliamentary secretary. And I know that minister is very serious and passionate about this. So I know a good committee will be in place to work as hard as Dr. Stokes and his team. And I'm also motivated by the fact, when we look at our recent PEP results, our top 10 students, out of those 10 students, 7 were boys. So all is not lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, PS. And also thank you, Dr. Stokes, for your responses. Mahiri, I think you have another question. Go ahead, please.
In terms of, I was looking at the stats for rebuilding. I know that there are stakeholders probably outside of the ministry, maybe elected representatives or stakeholders, maybe alumni, that also want to assist. Is there anything the ministry is putting in place, I know outside of NET, that can help representatives or stakeholders assist with school development?
All right, we're going to send that question directly to our executive director from NET, Mrs. Latoya Harris-Garrity. She's right in the audience. We're going to invite her to come to the lectern to respond. All right, she has a mic in hand. All right, we want you to come. Good lighting up here.
If there's anything that's being done outside of just NET to allow stakeholders or even elected representatives or any group in general to help with school development.
In terms of infrastructure development or overall? So we have donors that are currently very active and doing work. So we provide donors with guidelines with respect to the standards, and we actually assigned a project manager to oversee to ensure that the work is being done according to those standards. So there are several donor entities. I mean, everybody knows Sagicor, yes, is doing based upon the Sigma run, but we have others. Private companies, foundations. I think recently we saw the handover at 5 Spend. That was a donor that did an aspect of that school, and we're doing the rest. So we are partnering, and we are open to more hands on deck as we try to get to the finish line for improvements.
Okay, thank you. And I guess a question, I know State Minister Crawford is also an elected representative. Are there anything outside that being done for maybe MPs to help out with schools?
All right, thank you so much for that question. Now, of course, the government, through the Constituency Development Fund, each member of parliament, there are 63 of us, and every year we have to allocate a minimum of $5 million and a maximum of $10 million. So if we're using the basic benchmark, that's a total of $315 million. But this support is not, it's a general support that we can assist parents with tuition, with books, with uniforms, computers, gadgets. In terms of the physical infrastructure, I know that members of parliament have reached out to the business community in their respective constituencies for support, construction support, even in my own constituency. I take it upon myself to make my own appeal, and I have seen where that too have reaped success. But we know it's back to school time, and you see the discussions in the media. And outside of general support that our ministry is providing to our schools to help the schools to do better, Minister Dixon mentioned at one of her last press conference that the ministry is providing an additional $757.5 million in support to all our schools. That is an average of 55% increase. And beyond the minimum $315 million that members of parliament are spending, in our own Ministry of Education, we are allocating $189 million to members of parliament to provide tuition support to their constituents. So that's $504 million when you combine the Constituency Development Fund allocation and our ministry's allocation. So, for example, in my own constituency this year, I'm spending a total amount of $11.5 million. So I'm just saying that to say that we continue to give support in all the different areas, not just the physical infrastructure. And as the director of NET spoke earlier, I have seen firsthand private individuals coming out to give back to our schools. Recently, I was at Glenmuir College, and a past student, through his family foundation, donated funds to see to the complete rehabilitation of the auditorium. And even as you would have seen Labor Day, quite a number of our corporate companies have stepped up, and they have taken on schools in their communities or their parishes or generally to rehabilitate. And we are grateful for that support, and we want to remind and encourage those who have not yet come on board to come on board, because we know government alone can't do it, and enough will never be enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mrs. Harris-Garty. Do we have any further questions from the members of the media? No? We're clear? All right. I mean, Mahiri, it's yours today. It's yours today. Just have at.
Yeah, can I get a further explanation, rather, on IXL and how that works?
All right. CEO Thomas Gale, it's your time to shine.
That's a unique question. And I'm walking to the podium and I'm trying to get back into the exact operation. So IXL is a software that's completely web-enabled. It emphasizes literacy and numeracy skills. Our students within the ministry, we're able to see what's happening in all 56 high schools, the students that are on. The students are given the latitude to go on their own time to interact, and it measures their performance at different grade level. There is a pre-test that is done initially, and every time the student goes on, you see how much they have improved in the different activities that they're doing and such. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible, but it uses gamification. The teachers are able as well to use the methodology from the IXL in their regular delivery of the curriculum. It's aligned, the perfect thing about the IXL, it aligns perfectly with our national standards curriculum for mathematics and language arts.
Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extending questions to any other member of the audience who may have a question for any individual on our team. All right. Today was a pretty good press conference, pretty clear. Do we have any questions online? No, nothing there? All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, if you'd like to donate or sponsor a school, you can head on over to net.org.jm. There's a section there for you to make a donation. You can reach out to the team from NET to partner with them to support the education system in a variety of ways, not just infrastructure and development, but any way you think you can step in, NET is there. In addition to that, I just want to remind you that you can review this video and other videos on the Ministry of Education's platform as well as JIS platform. You can go to the Trend Jamaica website and you will find all of our ETOC press conferences and reports there for you to view at your pleasure. As we conclude today's press conference, I'd like to extend a very warm thank you to Dr. Adrian Stokes, our chairman of ETOC, Dr. Venice Morrison-Leon, our project lead, our state minister for joining us today, Ms. Rhoda Moy Crawford, our permanent secretary, Dr. Kassan Troop, our CEO, Mrs. Terrian Thomas Gale. Thank you so very much for participating. And of course, Mrs. Harris Garty from NET for fielding those questions very beautifully. And I also want to say a very big thank you to all of our heads of units. I see our team here in full force, and our regional directors, other members of the ministry team who have joined us today. Thank you for your continued partnership, ladies and gentlemen. Education is trending in the right direction. We must work together to transform Jamaica's education system, and we will do that through strong leadership, which is provided here today. I'm going to just give a moment now for our State Minister to say a quick word.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Bailey. I know Ms. Bailey has been doing an excellent job and is very able to move the vote of thanks, but I really want to add my own voice in saying thanks, not just to Dr. Stokes and the ETOC team, but generally, you know, as a teacher myself, trained and was in the classroom here and abroad, and I've had the opportunity, you know, my granny always said that in crisis there comes opportunity. And while we're not happy that we were impacted by Hurricane Melissa, because of its passage, we as a ministry, we were forced to get on the ground to meet and to interact with our regional teams, our principals and our teachers. And, you know, as a young minister of state in the ministry, I just want to put it out there because I don't think we talk enough about the positives. And I am so inspired by the quality and the dedication of the team that we have at our Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. Senator Dr. the Honorable Dana Morris-Dixon, myself and our Parliamentary Secretary, Marlon Morgan. Much of our success and why we can continue to do so well and do what we do, it is because we have a team that understands our vision, understands the mission of the government, and help us to work overtime to achieve those. And so I really want to salute our permanent secretary, our CEO, all our senior managers, our regional directors, our principals, our teachers, parents, and all the stakeholders for the role that they continue to play in strengthening our education system. As Dr. Stokes mentioned earlier, if we don't get it right at education, we can't get it right anywhere else. And to see a little island like Jamaica to withstand a Category 5 hurricane, the worst of its kind that we have had to experience. And, you know, we speak about the progress we have made and what we had done to get our schools back functioning, even though not in a perfect state. We had to do different formalities online, haphazard days when students would come in, you know, using tents, providing adjusted curriculum booklet, you name it. You would have heard it before. And when we would have mentioned that we have seen the progress nonetheless, The recent PEP examination is the real evidence that what we were saying about holding things together and putting things in order, it manifested in the performances of the students. Because when we look and we examine the performances of the students in the most affected sections of the island, in regions 3, 4, and 5, there was no decline in performance. As a matter of fact, you would have known by now that our top primary girl is from a school in St. Elizabeth. So we're not supposed to be afraid to shout our stories. If we don't tell our stories, it will continue to be his story, her story, and their story about us. We're doing very well. We're not yet where we want to be, but we continue to move in the right direction, and I believe that deserves recognition and thanks to our support team.
Thank you once again, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, I have nothing further to say except my name is Anita Bailey. It was a pleasure to be here carrying you through the program today. Have yourself a wonderful day and safe travels home.